All right, so I'm currently on the phone with Anthony. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview series. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Anthony, and I am the vocalist for the Buffalo-based metalcore band Hollow Crown, and I also do all the production for the band.
Awesome. Tell me about how you first found music, and what about it was inspiring and important to you that made you want to pursue a life with it.
So funny enough, what got me into music as a kid, I was never like super musical or anything. I played my first instrument. I played the mini tuba in my like school band when I was in elementary school, and that kind of got me into playing an instrument. But I didn't really like listen to any music until I was playing Guitar Hero when that was the craze, like all those years ago. And I started like getting into the heavier songs because I just really vibed with them, and it just kind of grew from there. And eventually I was like, okay, I want a real guitar now. And that got me
Sure.
really into rock and metal.
Okay. Once you did kind of make that transition into a real guitar, as you put it, how did you go about learning it? Was it all just kind of carryover muscle memory from like Rock Band, or did you kind of find that there were extra challenges that you had to overcome?
So it was like it was really funny because I like tried to do the whole thing like the legit way, and I remember my first guitar was an acoustic rental, and I started learning like trying to learn all the chords and stuff, but my I kept like having my fingers not work or like mute the notes, and I was getting frustrated. I'm like, this sucks. I'm not going to be able to do it. And then I just eventually started learning like Metallica songs on an acoustic guitar, which was
Sure.
not optimal for my playing. But I just was like, okay, I tried learning like notes, but then what ended up happening is I just like figured out, I took like an afternoon, I remember, on my front porch and just like figured out how to actually read tabs. And that's kind of where I got started. And I just learned like my favorite band songs and how to play them.
Hmm.
And that just kind of taught me how to play from there.
Okay. And then would you say that you had kind of any more motivation beyond just kind of wanting to pick up the instrument? What kind of drew you to, Rock Band to begin with? What was it about music that really kind of pulled you into it?
It was so long ago because when I was doing that, I was in like fifth grade, so it's so hard to like remember. I got started on it pretty young. I think it was maybe just the energy that like I felt with when I like started hearing those songs,
Hmm.
where and like I think it was always like a cool thing, especially guitar was like it's a cool instrument to play. No offense to the mini tuba I was playing, but
Hmm.
um I think that's what really got me motivated and like drew me in. And then I started like becoming a big fan of like whatever band I was into back then. Like Metallica was my gateway band. So it was just like, oh, I want to be like them. Kirk and James are so cool. So I think that's what really gave me like the motivation to push through and like keep going with guitar and like eventually get to a real guitar and not just like an acoustic guitar.
Sure. Okay. So let's kind of jump forward a little bit. Eventually, you've been playing real guitar, as you put it, for, a little bit now. When did you kind of feel you were ready to begin creating with it and then actually start structuring songs and writing?
So for years, for that had me jump a bit in the future because like for the first few years of playing, I definitely was just learning other band songs and stuff like that. And my younger brother Timothy kind of saw me and like he got into the same music that I did. And so he wanted to play an instrument, but he ended up going with drums and he's our drummer. So what happened is me and him would always just like jam our favorite songs together. We'd like learn the songs together and like figure that out and do that. And so we started doing that. And I remember the last year I was in middle school, we did our like middle school talent show together. Um, and that was kind of like where me and him like it went well and we were like, oh, we should try and start writing our own stuff. So then the next year we kind of found some other kids our age that were into the same music we did, and that's when we were like, okay, let's go start trying to play. And back then we were really big on thrash metal because basically like this band like me and my brother have been in it together since we started it when we were like 13. I was 13 and he was like 10. and we've just kind of like grown our musical tastes in like rock and metal, and it's kind of like just rebranded, renamed, and like changed over the years. But
Hmm.
it all really started with us playing like our own original thrash metal.
Okay, and so you guys are still together with your current project? Is that kind of what I'm picking up off of that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, the guys are different. It's not the same guys that we originally started with our like first iteration of a band, but
Hmm.
me and Timothy have been doing this since we were 13 and 10, basically.
Okay, so tell me about the current project. What is it, and then what are you guys doing?
So our current band, Hollow Crown, is we're a four-piece metalcore band. Our whole thing is we really love having the like modern kind of low tune guitars, that kind of sound, but like bridging it with kind of where we came from of like the older school metal and stuff, which was very like riffy and guitar centric. As we were talking, um I grew up a guitarist and I always was playing guitar, and now I just do the vocals. But I still do excuse me, I still do a lot of writing behind like in the studio and stuff like that on guitar with our guitarist. And even though I'm not like doing that, we wanted to bridge those kind of influences of like the riffs with like the modern heavy stuff, and make sure that we have good real energy to it and not have it be like too perfect or processed.
Okay, so you kind of lean more into kind of the organic kind of humanization rather than quantization aspect of
Yeah,
it.
I mean, we still it's funny because like we're still pretty uh like kind of like the quantized thing. Like I definitely have our drums edited and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But there's certain things that, especially with me being the producer, what my job is, I record and produce bands for a living at my studio, and that's where we also record and like do all of our stuff. And so because of that, I've been able to really like make some decisions on the production side of things with the guys of like, okay, so we still want it to sound modern and tight, but like we're not gonna edit the life out of the guitars, because to me that just like kills it too much. Or for the vocals that I do, especially like my screams, I don't like to do a lot of layers. I like to just
Hmm.
basically have it as close to like me doing it as possible, because I feel like there's a lot of that layer stuff going on nowadays, which is cool
Sure.
and it's funny. I do it with a lot of other bands I work with, but for like the sound we have in our heads for us, we want a little bit more of a like scaled back raw sound,
Hmm.
while still having it be that like edited modern big sound. So it's funny. It's kind of like taking from both.
Sure, absolutely. So it definitely sounds like you're in the studio, writing stuff and everything. Do you guys already have stuff out, or are you currently working on a release? What's kind of your cadence for release coming up?
Yeah, so we just released our debut single Disconnect about a month ago in late March. And it's the first song from our upcoming album that we're going to be slowly rolling out as singles over the next year. And the first five songs are a collection of songs we wrote early on, but like those were the first five that we wrote before anything else, and they detail kind of our own version of the five stages of grief in our own way of getting over and getting rid of someone in your life who was is still alive. So it's not like mourning like the normal five stages of grief because someone died, but someone that was in your life that is just a super negative influence, or just not a good person that was supposed to be a good person. In our case, a lot of me and the guys come from not the best home situation. Me and my brother specifically had our mom walk out on us when we were teenagers. I was a teenager. Timothy was like a very young teenager. And it really shaped a lot of who we are today. And so the first five songs we're coming out with are dealing with that whole trauma and what came from that.
Okay, sure. And then once you do have that out, do you think that you're going to kind of focus on like a full release, full album kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah. So these are the first five songs from the album. And then
Mhm.
the rest isn't going to be lyrically about the same thing, but it's still on the same album and written around the same time.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's some heavy material. Um,
Yeah.
all right. So once that is out, are you planning on like hitting up your local show circuit? What do you think will happen after that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So right now we've just been focused on like finishing the album and getting everything 100% squared away. And we want to release some songs first before we even play another show. Because we love playing live, and like the rest of the guys were in our last iteration of this band, and um we would always be able to, pack out like the local show circuits and have a lot of energy in the room, but we never had these new songs released. So one of the things that we have this time as our goal is we want to make sure we get some of these songs out so people can know the songs, know the lyrics and stuff, and then once some of that's out, we can announce a show, and it's just going to be a super fun, like super energetic hometown show. And that's our next step for live.
Awesome, very cool. So it sounds like you've had a pretty extensive career in music, starting off with rock band, learning music, at some point going into production and recording, and being able to make that your full time job, as well as working on your own passion project. What are some of your like favorite memories that have stood out to you that kind of keep you engaged in music?
Okay, so I definitely have one really big one. When I was in middle school and I was 13, I got this idea in my head to be one of those kids that held up a sign at a concert they went to of a band that they were into, asking if they could play guitar with them. And it was funny because my dad was like, "Oh, that's not going to happen. Like, I don't know why you're doing that." And it was actually my brother's first show he ever went to. And so it was a Machine Head show right after they came out with Unseen Locust. So like, I think it was 2012. It was right as I was leaving middle school. And so we went to the show. It was like our first club venue show. And I held up the sign asking if I could play their song Aesthetics of Hate with them. And they brought me on stage and gave me the guitar, and I played it with them. And that was definitely a very formative moment for me personally, because being like a middle school kid who's just like obsessed with metal at this point and guitar, and then like getting the opportunity to do that and then play to like a sold out packed club venue, that memory stuck with me. And that's when I was like, okay, I want to pursue that. That's what I want to be able to do this with my own music.
Was that in Buffalo?
Yes, that was in Buffalo.
I just looked it up while you were telling the story, and I found the video on YouTube. So I'll make sure it's linked to this interview. Awesome. Very cool. Did you have any other ones?
Yeah, one of the other really cool ones, it kind of relates to that too, was so that venue, that was our local, like in Buffalo venue that a lot of the metal tours would come through. And I remember what ended up happening is I always wanted to be able to have my band play that venue, because to me it was such an important thing in my growth. But it's like harder to get into one of those club venues when you're like a local band and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was something I wanted, and it was probably like 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. But we ended up getting a call like 2 days before a Saturday night show when Guar was playing there. And the venue owner knew me because of the fact that that video went like semi-viral back then
Mm-hmm.
in like the metal community. And so we had known each other, and we were trying to get into a show there, trying to open like a national tour there, and it just wasn't working out. And then I got a call like a Thursday evening from him, and he was like, "Hey, so does your band want to like open for Guar on Saturday night?" And I was like, yes, we do.
Yep.
And he was like, "Oh, don't you need a check?" I'm like, no, we can do it. We can do it. So we ended up playing that night. It was a sold out show, and we went on like an hour after doors. So the venue like really filled in, and just being able to play our own music on that stage and have people be into it was just such a rush of like, oh, okay, so I'm one step closer to like doing this for real, because like we're here and we're doing it with our own music right here.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, it's really cool that those like two memories are connected as well.
Yeah, it was a really big like full circle moment. It was awesome.
Awesome. So where can people, I mean, obviously I'll link that video, but where can people find you out on the broader internet and check out your social media?
So if people want to check us out, we are on all the social platforms at Hollow Crown NY for Instagram and TikTok. On Facebook, we're just Hollow Crown. And in addition to that, if anyone wants to follow me, I do a lot of production related stuff in addition to band stuff on my TikTok, which is at Anthony Potenza. And then look us up on all your major streaming services, Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music, and it's just going to be the name Hollow Crown. You can check out our newest single, Disconnect, and we'll be coming out with a new one in about a month to a month and a half.
All right. And I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So just a message you want to throw out there that you feel you resonate with.
For this one, I can probably say, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it that doesn't sound like super generic, but no matter what ends up happening, there's something inside of each of us, I truly think, that is resilient and like has that like fighting spirit that doesn't give up. And just whenever you feel like you're at a loss or you want to give up, just try and connect with that, because you're stronger than you think you are.